Hi there! First of all, I'd like to say to my panel colleagues how sorry I am for my absence at KISMIF, and also to thank Tânia Moreira and Paula de Guerra for not only allowing this, but to encourage me to do this presentation in video. And if you guys want to talk with me after this, you can reach me through my email, which is bconter@gmail.com. My name is Marcelo Bergamin Conter. And okay, so let's start. My presentation is called The Media Archaeology of the Gatorra, or the Afterlife of Obsolete Electronic Devices in a Handcrafted Musical Instrument. This is part of my analysis, this is part of the analysis of my PhD research, which is just about to be published in book in September, and it's going to be in Brazilian Portuguese. It is called Lo-Fi Pop Music in Low Definition. In the mid-1990s, a mid-aged man called Antônio Carlos Correia de Moura developed a handcrafted musical instrument made out of scrap. The Gatorra, as he calls it, is handed as an electric guitar, just like an electric guitar, but it's a box made out of plastic and metal components filled with buttons in its surface. Most of the synthesized sounds you can create with it are similar to a drum kit, but there is also knobs for the creation of drum sounds and a bar where you can control the pitch in a similar way you could do with a tremolo bar of an electric guitar. As soon as the instrument was ready, Antonio composed a few songs and became a street artist, playing at the Democratic Corner, which is a very crowded and touristic site of the city of Porto Alegre, Brazil. From then on, he became Tony da Gatorra. He creates mostly protest music, shouting upon Gatorra's frenetic and out-of-sync rhythms. A man and his instrument against the world. Through the years, he slowly gained attention, and also a new informal job to build Such practice led Tony very far. Louisa Love Fox, CSS lead singer, bought one, which led to Franz Ferdinand's Nick McCarthy ask for another one. At last, Super Furry Animals' Gruff Rice invited Tony for a joint venture, playing in the UK and releasing a record together. I'm less interested in his persona, in Tony persona, or in the lyrical content of his music, and more in the Gatorra itself as an object that re-signified the black boxes, as in Willem Flusser. I'm going to explain this later. So I recognize the instrument as the result of several fluxes of resistance against the logics of program obsolescence and technocentrical discourses, an archaeological approach toward obsolete media objects. According to Jussi Parikka, media archaeology is introduced as a way to investigate the new media cultures through insights from past new media, often with an emphasis on the forgotten, the quirky, the non-obvious apparatuses, practices and inventions. If we compare this quote with our general idea of what an archaeologist does for a living, a media archaeologist is one who is capable of rethink our relation with contemporary media from what he discovers on media's instruments and devices that were forgotten, ignored, turned obsolete or scrapped. The simple act of dig the mediatic past allows us to recognize how the discourse of novelty adopted by big companies when they release their new technologies is allied to a presentness, a denial of the past. This is what Eric Falinto entitles Triumphalist Historiographies, a linear, progressive reading of culture and technology's history, progressively expanding in data storage capacity, processing speeds, image and sound resolution, and so on. What media archaeology do is precisely to face such reading of time, recovering the past not only as linear or circular, recovering the past not as linear or circular, but as stratified layers. So there's an inversion of the industrial logic. New technologies are read in its becoming junk condition, whereas junk is read in its critical condition towards media current stage. Just like photography freed painting from representation, every new media that gets popular ends up freeing its ancestors from their main role. Such idea is well defended and documented by Walter Benjamin, McLuhan and Willem Flusser. But we should notice that this is only accomplished by standardized medias. And to achieve such status, you don't rely only in consumer approval, but in major worldwide commercial agreements. The progressive line photograph, record player, radio, cassette, CD, MP3 was possible because many other medias failed to succeed, sometimes without even leaving the factory. The ones that did arrive at the stores failed when faced by consumer disinterest or discontent. Out of the industrial logic, disconnected from conglomerated and experts groups, an independent inventor might only create from different logics. There is no novelty in the Gatorra other than the destratification and tensioning of different hardwares of different medias between each other. It manifests not only Tony's shout of resistance, but also the resistance of obsolete medias within themselves. The Gatorra is a media for the medias, a black box that reprogram black boxes. The philosopher Willem Flusser sees the analog photo machine as the ideal metaphor of what he calls black boxes. These are hardware that we users easily deal with its input and output. We know what to do before taking a picture, like framing and how the lighting is, and later what to do with the printed paper. But what happens between pressing the shutter button and the image printed in film? Even the most primitive photo camera seems too complex for the average user if he cracks it open and tries to understand its scheme. We do not know how it works bit by bit. This is why Flusser calls them black boxes. Of course, that this is not restricted to photo machines only. In musical universe, there are plenty of black boxes that we can use to create sounds. We can see this on the theremin, on racks, stacks, stomp boxes, finger drumming devices, and so on. It's remarkable that these devices not only present themselves as black boxes, but also as surfaces. Instead of the linearity evoked by the disposition of music notes on a piano keyboard, there is a bidimensionality where punctual elements are presented and set to connect with each other. What the Gatorra express, if we consider all this? As an electronic technician as he is, Tony maybe would say that there is no dead medias. There are medias that can be fixed and remixed. All the buttons, potentiometers, or potentiometers, I don't know how to say this in English, knobs and chips and chipboards of the Gatorra are provided by other media, most of them undoubtedly zombie medias, Parika would say. All pieces of his prototype comes from analog TVs and radios that not long ago had several adjustment knobs. As we can see on the screen, this component rests on the Gatorra's arm and now regulates the length of the synthesized sounds created by the triangular buttons we see in the middle of the arm. In its minimum position, the sound is short and dry, similar to percussive sounds. In its maximum position, the sound lasts long as the player keeps them pressed. And there it is, inscribed in the Gatorra's arm, part of the television history. Not only a history that is finished, replaced by digital controllers, but a line of flight of its own. The persistence of a component that were developed to be adjusted only once when a consumer bought a TV set and chose the channels. Now this component persists in its main quality, a regulator. That's what it is doing in the Gatorra. Following the development of post-sampling musical instruments, Gatorra's buttons, knobs and keys of adjustment are similar to toys. Objects like that transpose our condition from Homo faber to Homo ludens. Conceptual thinking is expressed through combinatory games between discrete elements triggered remotely. through spreaded buttons on a surface. A rhizome of new programs that overcome and phagocytes each other is established, a semiosis of the programs. The Gatorra deteriorized racks, stacks and stump boxes and remixed them into a contemporary parody of the indecipherable black boxes. It is a resistance manifestation towards such hardware and programs. But that, however, does not imply freedom. There is an effective fault after this process. Tony could see himself being a programmer of himself as well. What succeeds now is how thus Tony is going to react to the device that, although he created it himself, now limit his possibilities of expression. This is due to the fact that the combination of pieces of black boxes resulted on a new black box, the Gatorra itself. As much as Tony repeats some of his methods during the crafting of each brand new Gatorra that he develops, each instrument is unique not only visually, but in its sonic possibilities. It's curious to realize that even though he does not manufacture his Gatorras in an industrial scale, Tony's effort to try to improve, to turn it more complex or to insert more gadgets in the newest Gatorra, comparing to the last one he made, puts him in a condition of a programmer, programmed by the programs that he himself programmed. Such phenomenon may only occur due to a complex technical, social and discursive networks where Tony, the Gatorra, and the zombie medias encrusted in the surface of the instrument are intertwined. Concluding, with the help of some authors that study media archaeology, we could recognize the lines of flight that brings life back to obsolete media. These lines are assemblages, realized by beings that creates territories of signification outside, opposed, or at the margins of the triumphalist history, as is the case of Tony the Gatorra, emerging in a critical position towards such history. Every media that failed to triumph, have they either become a proper product, got stuck in the imagination level, or even became the expression of smithereens of other devices, end up reprogramming the triumphalist history of the devices. The obsolete and the junk, therefore, does not concern what is dead, what lost its utility, but what resists persisting in the difference. Now we can comprehend the Gatorra as a low-definition assemblage. It is inscribed in an indetermination zone, or in a zone of indeterminacy. There is this difficulty to inscribe it as a simple machine or a DIY object, as a punk device or a finger drumming device. Its capacity to reassemble zombie medias resides precisely in that zone. So let the Gatorra remain obsolete. And thank you very much for your attention.
É verdade, eu disse que o governo do Brasil, covarde, roubando o dinheiro da população e cobrando nossos impostos. É verdade.